expecting to get from the consular services. And these especially are to do with the visa processing and also the smoother issuance and the application of passports. And the budget that was released also assists in that regard. But let me transition, Honourable Speaker, on the underfunding. Our consular missions, they are the face of the country. When our embassies are providing services out there, they represent the whole country. And where funding is not adequate, this does not present the actual face of the country. On diplomatic capacity, there are countries where we have seen reports that there are shortfalls in terms of staff. And the staffing levels are very critical when it comes to representation. And fewer diplomats and fewer support staff may not augur well when it comes to our representations at international level. So this then affects our ability to monitor global movement that I've mentioned, especially on market intelligence. Then on trade facilitation, again, fewer members, fewer staff, fewer trade missions affects our ability to effectively trade, so that as a country we can get the best from the products, the services that we offer as a country. Then another critical issue on multilateral engagements. We are a member and belong to bodies like SADC, African Union, COMESA, United Nations. And if we don't have enough budgets, this also weakens our influence in those regional and international bodies. And there is need to make sure that as a country, we fully fund a Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Affairs so that they are in a position to represent us as a country at those multilateral levels. And on diaspora, it is very critical for Zimbabwe to continuously engage the diaspora. Why it is important? We have seen countries like Philippines, Ethiopia, benefiting from the diaspora. The construction of the largest dam in Africa, which is in Ethiopia now, was funded by the diaspora bonds. And as a country, we are also saying we can engage our diaspora. They can assist us, especially in terms of diaspora investments. And it is critical that we engage them, we know what they want, and also try to make sure that we localize their expectations. And this can only be done when our Ministry of Foreign Affairs has got a healthy budget. So as I conclude, Honourable Speaker, the economic growth and export performance of our country is dependent on the extent to which we are competitive as a country. And it requires a strong Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, since they represent us at that level. So I fully support the report as presented by the chairperson of the committee, that there is need for Treasury to prioritize budget releases for the ministry so that the ministry is in a position to represent us at international and multilateral level. I so submit, Honourable Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Chiduwa. Honourable Eni Mangondo.
Thank you, Honourable Madam Speaker, ma'am. Good afternoon. I rise to support the report that was presented by the chairman of the Portfolio Committee on Foreign Affairs and International Trade. and seconded by Honourable Moyo, for the first, second, and third quarter budget performance report for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for the year 2025. Honourable Speaker, ma'am, I would like to start by commending the Minister of Finance for being able to disburse funds which enabled the ministry to clear the legacy debts that the ministry had, especially in terms of the salary arrears for their staff, both the foreign service officers as well as the local recruited staff. I would also like to commend the ministry for having, the Minister of Finance that is, for having been able to adjust the salaries of local recruited staff, which had made it very difficult for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and its missions to retain the local recruited staff. So the Ministry of Finance has positively responded to the submissions which have been made by the Committee on Foreign Affairs at various fora, including the pre-budget seminar. So for that reason, I think as Parliament, we need to commend the ministry to keep on doing good and doing better, especially for our foreign missions, which act as the face of the Republic of Zimbabwe in various countries that we are represented. However, Madam Speaker, ma'am, I would like to raise concern with regards to the grants that were appropriated by this House to the Zimbabwe Foreign Service Institute as well as to Zimtrade. Honourable Speaker, ma'am, with respect to Zimtrade, an amount of 20 million ZiG was reversed when it had already been allocated. That created a situation where Zimtrade was not able to acquire the ideal stand that was required for purposes of our exhibition at Osaka. The 10% disbursement that was given to Zimbabwe Foreign Service Institute was a tiny amount of money compared to what had been appropriated by way of a grant. Madam Speaker, you will notice that most grants, when appropriated by this Parliament, are disbursed either in full at once, or they're disbursed periodically. It could be quarterly, it could be monthly, it could be biannually. But in the case of the Zimbabwe Foreign Service Institute, Madam Speaker, for the whole financial year of 2025, Treasury only disbursed 10%, which in actual fact left the institute handicapped. They could not recruit staff, because out of an establishment of 37 approved members of staff on the establishment, the institute only has 7 people in posts. And naturally, as a new institute, there's very little that we can do with only 7 members of staff. And as a new institute, by the way, Honourable Speaker, ma'am, you wish to know that the institute was established just about 4 years ago. As a new institution, it requires a lot of support from government. This is an institution that is going to play a very critical role in terms of training our diplomats to become what the country expects of them in terms of pursuing economic diplomacy. The Foreign Service Institute, Madam Speaker, ma'am, is doing a great job, even in terms of training parliamentarians. As you are aware, just last month, several of the members of this august house were in Bulawayo, where they were being trained by the Foreign Service Institute on aspects to do with the deportment, protocol, etiquette, and so forth. The Foreign Service Institute provides those services to other MDAs, as well as to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It's tasked with the responsibility for taking those who would have been earmarked for diplomatic training through the National Diplomatic Training course. But as long as they are not being funded adequately, it becomes very difficult for the ministry for the institute to discharge its responsibilities. The institute has been referred to by the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, is housed in a former guest house of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Harare. Those premises, Madam Speaker, ma'am, make it almost impossible for the institute to discharge its functions because they are really housed in a matchbox, such that any foreign delegations, any foreign countries that may want to send their people for training will find it very unattractive when the institute is housed at such a small building. So my recommendations, and I'm sure the chairperson has already made or alluded to the recommendations of the committee, are to say, Honourable Speaker, ma'am, Minister of Finance should disburse the grants that would have been appropriated by this House in full. Given the challenges of cash flows, they can then determine how to disburse, whether it is quarterly or biannually. But at the end of the financial year, before the end of the financial year, what would have been appropriated by this August House must be disbursed in full to those two institutes under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, namely the Foreign Service Institute and Zimtrade. That's my first recommendation. The second recommendation, Madam Speaker, ma'am, is that I think the Ministry of Foreign Affairs should consider finding better premises for the Foreign Service Institute. Premises that are commensurate with the work that are expected to do, and premises that are commensurate with the prestigious nature under which the Institute of Foreign Affairs or the Zimbabwe Institute of Foreign Service is expected. So appropriate premises which could either be bought as existing or preferably that could be specifically designed and constructed for the Zimbabwe Foreign Service Institute. Zimbabwe will always be here. Zimbabwe will always be posting diplomats to other countries. Zimbabwe will always have a parliament that needs to be trained. So let's give the Zimbabwe Foreign Service Institute the support it deserves. I thank you, Honourable Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Mangondo. Next to take the floor is Honourable V. Chitimbe.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Good afternoon. I rise to contribute to the debate on the 2025 first, second and third quarter budget performance report for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Trade. From the outset, Honourable Speaker, I want to acknowledge the efforts made by the Ministry despite the difficult operating environment. There are clear positives that we must recognize. For example, diaspora remittances reached around US 1.8 billion by the third quarter, which shows the confidence Zimbabweans abroad have in contributing to our economy. In addition, Honourable Speaker, export earnings have increased significantly and the trade deficit has gone down. This is a sign that our engagement with the international community is beginning to yield results. Honourable Speaker, the Ministry also performed well in consular services, even exceeding its targets. This shows commitment to serving Zimbabweans living abroad. The introduction of e-consular services, especially in Johannesburg, is a step in the right direction and must be expanded. However, while we appreciate these achievements, we cannot ignore the serious challenges highlighted in the report. The biggest issue is underfunding. Only 60% of the allocated budget was disbursed. This is not just a number. It has real consequences. It means projects are not completed, services are delayed, and the Ministry cannot fully carry out its mandate. Honourable Speaker, the state of our diplomatic missions is worrying. Some of our embassies and properties are in poor condition, and this affects how Zimbabwe is perceived internationally. If we want to attract investment and building strong relations, we must present ourselves in a dignified and professional manner. Delays in completing projects in places like Abuja, Berlin, and London are therefore unacceptable. The situation of the Zimbabwe Foreign Services Institute is also concerning. With only a small portion of its budget released, the institute cannot recruit enough staff, cannot secure proper office space, and cannot even acquire basic equipment. This weakens our capacity to train diplomats and represent Zimbabwe effectively on the global stage. Furthermore, Honourable Speaker, some trade-related projects have stalled due to funding challenges. This undermines our goal of becoming an export-led economy. Honourable Speaker, funding must not be allocated on paper. It must be released on time. Without that, even the best plans will fail. In light of these issues, I support the committee's recommendations. Government must prioritize the timely disbursement of funds. Infrastructure at our missions must be improved urgently. The rollout of e-consular services must be accelerated, and institutions like the Foreign Services Institute must be properly funded to function effectively. In conclusion, Honourable Speaker, the Ministry has shown potential and achieved some important milestones, but without adequate and timely financial support, its performance will remain limited. If we are serious about strengthening our international relations, promoting trade, and improving Zimbabwe's image globally, then we must match our ambitions with the necessary resources. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Chitimbe. I call upon Honourable Shamu to wind up the report.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, ma'am, and a very good afternoon to you. Thank you, Madam Speaker, ma'am. Madam Speaker, ma'am, I would like to thank all the honourable members who have contributed to the debate on the first, second, and third quarter budget performance report of the